The boy only cut open the whale's belly, and was shocked for 3 seconds, because inside the whale's belly was a girl holding a sword. More amazingly, the girl was still alive, but this made Stern even more uneasy, because this girl might not be human. So he asked Julian to watch her, while he went to look up some information. Although Julian was scared, looking at the girl's still charming face, he, who had been single for 18 years, began to blush. He even started fantasizing that when the girl wakes up, she would become his future wife, because he was her savior. Just as he was imagining her giving birth to 11 children who would win the World Cup, the girl suddenly woke up. Julian stuttered, wanting to tell the girl that he had saved her, but was interrupted by her. She asked for his name, and upon learning Julian's name, she very respectfully addressed him as master, and asked him to give her a name. Only then did Julian realize that the girl might have amnesia. Looking at the expectant girl, Julian pondered what name would be good. Just then, he noticed the bracelet hanging by the bedside, so he named her Carnelian, because the girl's pupils resembled that gemstone. Little did he know that the act of naming the girl would completely change both their destinies. Just then, Stern rushed in, wanting to warn Julian not to give the girl a name, because he had found in an ancient book. The girl was a species called seal. They were sealed in various places around the world, only to be awakened by powerful forces. Once a tamer gives her a name, an irreversible contract would be formed. Though they look human, they possess powers sterner than humans, and would only obey their tamer. When their tamer dies, they would fall back into slumber. But Stern was too late. As the runes on the great sword lit up, Carnelian knelt and swore to accept Julian as her master. Stern could only helplessly accept reality, while Julian was innocently punished. But what puzzled Stern was that he had never found any record of a seal being discovered in a whale's belly. However, it was certain that Carnelian was a high-level seal with a weapon, possessing combat power that tens of thousands of regular troops couldn't match. But Carnelian scoffed and said, "You're underestimating me, tens of thousands aren't enough to fill my teeth. Destroying a country would be just a piece of cake for me." But the two of them couldn't feel any resonance. And Carnelian didn't feel at all that Julian was her tamer. "I don't know why a cook like you could awaken me." Julian felt offended and immediately retorted, "I've already told you that you woke up on your own, I didn't awaken you." Just then Stern said, "Then let's change masters." They could just transfer Carnelian to someone else who could become a tamer. Julian was very satisfied with this solution. This way he could escape his current predicament. But Carnelian asked puzzledly, "Does this little fishing village really have knights?" "Of course not here, but this village is managed by a lord." So Stern invited the lord's foolish son, Castrump. The moment he saw Carnelian, he was conquered by her still charming appearance. Drool flowed from the corners of his mouth, full of admiration. After observing her for 2 rounds, he was extremely satisfied with Carnelian's beauty and figure. He even eagerly extended his lecherous hand, wanting to immediately give her a name, but was swatted away by Carnelian. Because her current tamer was still Julian, and no one could touch her without his permission. Castrump also regained some sense. This frivolous behavior left Julian speechless. Was such a knight really worthy of entrusting? Just then, Castrump shouted at him, "What are you dawdling for? Hurry up and start changing masters." So Julian let him give Carnelian a name first. After thinking with his pig-like brain for 2 minutes, Castrump excitedly told Carnelian, "Your new name will be Castia," but no one except himself liked this name. Others asked, "Are you serious?" And next, as long as Julian agrees, the master changing procedure can be completed. But Julian looked towards Carnelian, wanting to confirm if she was willing to become Castrump's servant. But not only did Carnelian show no reluctance, she even urged him to quickly start changing masters. Julian had no choice but to agree. After all, no matter what, a knight was definitely better than a cook. At this moment Carnelian suddenly lowered her head. Castrump thought she was bowing to him. He reached out his palm to caress Carnelian's cheek, wanting to get a good look at his soon-to-be new plaything. But the next second, Carnelian swatted him away, saying irritably, "Get your dirty hands off me, you stupid idiot. It seems my name is still Carnelian." It turned out Julian's power was too weak. He couldn't even give the command to change masters. How did trash like you awaken her then? But Carnelian didn't know the reason either. But he felt relieved at this moment. Because this way he wouldn't have to be called by that terrible name, Castilla. But how could Trump let such a fat sheep slip away? So he drew his thin and long weapon, preparing to stab Julian to death. After all, you're just a lowly person. If I can't get it peacefully, then I'll just take it by force. He even said dying by his sword would be Julian's honor. But just as he was about to stab, Carnelian made her move. Trump's head instantly relocated. Since you think death is an honor, then go die, she said while gracefully sheathing her great sword. I'm not wrong, am I, my cook? By now Julian was already trembling with fear. Looking at the frightened Julian, Carnelian teased. So my master is seeing someone being killed for the first time. You'll have to get used to such scenes if you're going to be with me. Seeing Carnelian continuously approaching him, Julian backed away in fear, repeatedly saying, "Don't come near me." Carnelian just calmly said, "No seal would harm their own master. Just relax, even if you're weak you're still my master, and if you suddenly die it would be troublesome for me." Just then, Trump's guards surrounded them, immediately drawing their swords preparing to capture Carnelian. But Carnelian reminded them, "You don't have time to deal with me right now, do you?" Only then did everyone notice. The seal that originally belonged to Trump suddenly became abnormal. One of them even screamed in terror, "The seal has lost connection, we must quickly kill the seal." But before he could finish speaking, a long sword fell on his bald head. Then this seal began the slaughter. No one could stop her. But what was worse, another seal also started losing connection. A guard tried to take the opportunity to kill her, but was blasted 2 meters away by a powerful aura. Julian was very confused. Why did they start fighting among themselves? Carnelian explained that after their master dies, seals instantly lose rationality and attack people around randomly. That's what's called losing connection. When Julian heard that earlier when she said she'd be in trouble if he died, did she mean she would also lose connection? After getting an affirmative response, Julian asked if there was any way to stop it. But Carnelian told him that seals' minds would return to normal after some time, but before that many people would die. Soon the 2 seals completely eliminated all the guards. There was no one left who could fight against them. The seals then turned their target to the powerless Julian. Just as the sword was about to pierce him, Carnelian crossed her great sword, easily blocking the strike. Seeing this, the 2 disconnected seals looked at her fiercely. Looking at her approaching kind, Carnelian was somewhat helpless. "Although I don't want to fight seals, but you want to kill my master. So I have no choice but to kill you." The seal used the simplest sword draw. Carnelian directly split her opponent in half. After all, Carnelian was the champion of the 1974 Southeast Asian free fighting competition. But this scene also deeply shocked Julian. Although he had killed hundreds of millions of whales, he had never felt such fear before. The villagers who witnessed all this began to discuss. How could this woman jump so high and kill the powerful seal with one sword strike? What background does she have? Just then someone shouted loudly, "She is Julian's seal." Looking at the corpses everywhere, Julian had already frozen in place. At this moment, he felt all this was fake. But the blood all over him seemed to remind him, this was all real. The strong smell of blood made him vomit. Carnelian walked towards Julian. "Are you okay?" Hearing this, Julian slowly raised his head and said thank you to Carnelian. "Thanks to you, I could survive." But Carnelian told him not to misunderstand. "After all, if the master dies, I would." Hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for the next part. Let's crush our 100 like goal. Your support keeps this going. If you want the next part, type next part in the comments.